entitled parents coworker spread lies about my marriage, so I ruined her life. The lie that almost destroyed everything. Your husband called looking for you again. Third time this week. I looked up from my laptop to see Sandra hovering by my cubicle with that fake concerned expression she perfected over the past month. Her voice carried just loud enough for half the marketing department to hear. He sounded worried. About where you've been staying. She tilted her head, eyes gleaming. Everything okay at home? My stomach dropped. I hadn't been staying anywhere except my own bed, next to my husband of 4 years. But the way she said it, with that loaded pause and the knowing look, I could practically see the gears turning in my coworkers' minds. David knows exactly where I am, thanks, I managed, keeping my voice steady. Sandra shrugged, her blonde highlights catching the fluorescent lights. Just thought you should know, he seemed confused. Poor guy. She walked away, her heels clicking against the tile floor like a countdown timer. I stared at my computer screen, but the quarterly campaign metrics blurred together. This was the third helpful comment Sandra had made this week. Monday it was asking loudly if I needed a number for a good marriage counselor. Tuesday she'd mentioned how brave I was for staying so late at the office instead of going home. And now this. My phone buzzed. A text from my friend Jess in accounting, *K, need to talk. Coffee after work? *. 20 minutes later, I was gripping a latte like a lifeline while Jess shifted uncomfortably across from me. I don't know how to say this, she started, but there are rumors going around about you. What kind of rumors? That you're having an affair with someone from the Peterson account. That you and David are getting divorced. That you've been lying to everyone about your marriage being fine. Jess leaned forward, lowering her voice. Sarah, people are talking. Like everyone. The coffee shop suddenly felt suffocating. Who's saying this? It started with Sandra mentioning she overheard a phone call you made. Something about meeting someone and keeping it secret from David? Then she said she's noticed you acting suspicious, staying late, being secretive about your whereabouts. I felt like I'd been punched. Jess, the only phone call I've made recently about meeting someone was when I was planning David's surprise birthday party. I was talking to the restaurant about the reservation and making sure they wouldn't call him to confirm. Oh my god. Jess's face went pale. Sarah, this is so messed up. How far has this spread? HR called me in yesterday asking if I'd noticed any changes in your behavior or performance. They're conducting some kind of informal investigation into workplace relationships and professionalism standards. She grabbed my hand across the table. They mentioned that multiple people had expressed concerns. My career flashed before my eyes. I'd just gotten promoted to senior marketing manager 6 months ago, the position Sandra had also applied for. The position she'd been convinced was hers until I'd presented the campaign that landed us the Peterson account. She's destroying my life, I whispered. What are you going to do? I thought about David's confused text this morning asking why our neighbor had given him a sympathetic look and asked if he needed anything during this difficult time. I thought about my boss's odd comment yesterday about maintaining professional boundaries. I thought about Sandra's satisfied smirk every time she delivered another piece of fake concern. I'm going to fix this, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. And Sandra's going to regret the day she decided to mess with me. I just had to figure out how. The unraveling begins. The confrontation with David that night was worse than I'd imagined. Sarah, I need you to be completely honest with me. He was sitting at our kitchen table, still in his work clothes, his face drawn with exhaustion. Because I'm getting phone calls at work. My colleagues are asking me if everything's okay at home. My boss pulled me aside today to ask if I needed some personal time. I felt the blood drain from my face. What did they say? That someone from your office called our house asking for you, and when I said you were at work, they seemed surprised. Said they'd heard you weren't living here anymore. His voice cracked slightly. Sarah, people think we're separated. They think you're having an affair. David, you know that's not true. You know where I am every night. I'm here, with you. But how did this start? Why would someone make this up? I told him everything, about Sandra, the promotion, the twisted phone call about his birthday party. With each word, David's expression grew darker. This is insane, he said, running his hands through his hair. But Sarah, it's not just affecting you anymore. My career could take a hit if people think I can't handle my personal life. And your reputation at work. I know. I reached for his hand. I'm going to fix this. How? How do you fight lies that are already spreading like wildfire? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. The next morning, things got exponentially worse. I walked into the office to find my direct report, Marcus, avoiding eye contact. My assistant, Riley, was unusually quiet. Even the security guard gave me an odd look as I scanned my badge. At 10 a.m., I got called into HR. Sarah, please have a seat. Jennifer from HR looked uncomfortable, shuffling papers on her desk. We need to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention. What kind of concerns? Multiple employees have reported observing behavior that suggests you may be violating our workplace relationship policy. There are also questions about your recent performance and reliability. My heart pounded. I haven't violated any policies. And my performance reviews have been excellent. We've received reports that you've been taking personal calls during work hours, leaving early for unexplained appointments, and that your marriage troubles may be affecting your judgment regarding client relationships. Each word felt like a physical blow. Who reported this? I can't disclose that information. But Sarah, I need to ask directly, are you having an inappropriate relationship with anyone connected to your work? Specifically, anyone from the Peterson account? Absolutely not. Jennifer, I think I'm being deliberately targeted by someone who wants to damage my reputation. She made a note. Do you have any evidence of that? Not yet. But I intend to get it. Sarah, I'm going to recommend you take a few days to sort out your personal situation. Paid leave, while we conduct a more thorough investigation. You're suspending me? I'm giving you time to resolve whatever is happening before it impacts the company further. Because Sarah, the Peterson client called yesterday asking if you were still going to be their primary contact, given your personal circumstances. They'd heard rumors. I felt like the walls were closing in. Sandra hadn't just targeted my coworkers, she'd reached our clients. This was a coordinated character assassination, and it was working. Walking back to my desk to collect my things, I saw Sandra watching me from across the room. When our eyes met, she didn't even try to hide her smile. That's when I realized Sandra had made a critical mistake. She'd escalated this beyond office gossip into something that threatened my livelihood and my marriage. And I was about to show her what happened when you backed a marketing professional into a corner. The investigation begins. 3 days of forced leave gave me something Sandra hadn't counted on, time and motivation to dig into her life with the same thoroughness I used for market research. I started with what I knew. Sandra Morrison, 34, divorced 2 years ago, lived in the Riverside Apartments downtown. She'd been with the company for 5 years, passed over for promotion twice, once last year for a position that went to Jake in digital marketing, and then my promotion 6 months ago. But there had to be more. People don't orchestrate character assassinations this elaborate without having serious personality flaws that show up elsewhere. I began with social media, cross-referencing her posts with company events and timelines. What I found was interesting. Sandra had a pattern of posting vague, passive-aggressive comments about fake people and backstabbers after major office announcements. When Jake got his promotion, she posted about unqualified people sleeping their way to the top. When I got mine, it was a rant about nepotism and office politics. Then I found something useful. 3 months ago, Sandra had posted photos from a weekend trip to Nashville. The timestamp showed Saturday afternoon, but I distinctly remembered her calling in sick that Friday, claiming food poisoning. A small lie, but it established a pattern of dishonesty. My phone rang. It was Riley, my assistant, whispering like she was afraid someone would overhear. Sarah, I can't talk long, but you need to know, Sandra's been asking me questions about your schedule, your client calls, everything. She wanted to know who you've been meeting with and when. When did this start? Weeks ago. Right after the Peterson contract renewal celebration. She said she was trying to help coordinate something for you, but it felt weird. And Sarah? Riley's voice dropped even lower. I saw her at your desk yesterday after you left, looking through your papers. My blood ran cold. Going through someone's desk was a fireable offense, but I needed proof. Riley, I need you to do something for me, and I know it's risky. Whatever you need. Everyone knows Sandra's lying about you. We just don't know how to prove it. If you see her at my desk again, can you document it? Time, date, what she's doing. Already started. I took a photo yesterday with my phone. Relief flooded through me. Riley, you're amazing. There's something else. Marcus heard Sandra on the phone in the break room yesterday, talking to someone about you. He couldn't hear everything, but she mentioned something about making sure the Peterson client knew what kind of person they were dealing with. So Sandra had directly contacted our client. That was sabotage, plain and simple. After hanging up with Riley, I decided to take a different approach. If Sandra was this vindictive toward me, she'd probably had issues with other coworkers too. I called Amy, who transferred to our Seattle office last year. Oh my god, Sarah, Sandra Morrison? That woman is a nightmare. Why? She's been spreading rumors about me. I'm trying to figure out if she's done this before. Done it before? Sarah, she's the reason I transferred. She started telling everyone I was padding my expense reports after I got the Johnson account she wanted. She even went to accounting with concerns about my spending. It took months to clear my name, and by then I just wanted out. My hands were shaking as I took notes. Did you ever report her? I tried, but she was careful. Never put anything in writing, always played the concerned coworker. HR said they couldn't act on hearsay. But this time would be different. Because Sandra had made this personal, and she'd left a trail. That evening, David found me surrounded by printouts, timelines, and notes spread across our dining room table. Sarah, what is all this? Evidence. Sandra thinks she can destroy my life because she's jealous of my promotion. But she's not as smart as she thinks she is. David sat down beside me, studying the documents. This looks like you're building a legal case. I am. She's committed workplace harassment, interfered with client relationships, and probably violated a dozen company policies. But I need more. What kind of more? I looked at my husband, knowing what I was about to say would sound crazy. I need to catch her in the act. And I think I know how. The trap. My plan was risky, but Sandra's arrogance was going to be her downfall. I'd noticed something during my investigation. Sandra always stayed late on Thursdays, long after most people left. Riley had mentioned seeing her at my desk during these times, and I suspected she was using the opportunity to gather more ammunition against me. This Thursday, I was going to give her exactly what she was looking for. Are you sure about this? David asked as I prepared to leave the house that evening. This could backfire spectacularly. She's already destroyed my reputation. I have nothing left to lose. I arrived at the office at 7 p.m., when I knew Sandra would still be there but most others would be gone. I'd coordinated with Riley, who was staying late to finish a project but would actually be documenting everything from the break room. I made my way to my desk and pulled out my phone, dialing David's number. When he answered, I launched into the performance of my life. Hey, it's me. No, I can't talk long, I'm still at the office. I know, but this Peterson situation is getting complicated. I paused, glancing around. Sure enough, Sandra's head had popped up from her cubicle like a prairie dog sensing danger. Listen, about tomorrow night, we need to be more careful. If anyone from work finds out about our meetings, it could ruin everything. I lowered my voice just enough to sound secretive, but loud enough for Sandra to strain to hear. The restaurant downtown, same time as last week. And remember, if anyone asks, you never talk to me. I could practically feel Sandra's excitement radiating from across the room. I have to go. Someone might be listening. I hung up and made a show of looking around nervously before packing up my things and leaving. The bait was set. Friday morning brought the results I expected, but faster than I'd anticipated. I was barely through the office door when Marcus approached me, looking uncomfortable. Sarah, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but Sandra was asking me weird questions this morning about your marriage and whether I thought you were acting suspicious. What did you tell her? The truth, that you've always been professional and I've never seen you do anything inappropriate. But she seemed really excited about something. She kept hinting that she had information that would clear everything up soon. By lunch, 3 more coworkers had approached me with similar stories. Sandra was making her rounds, building her case with the evidence I'd fed her. But then something unexpected happened that threatened to derail everything. Jennifer from HR called me into another meeting. Sarah, I'm going to be direct. We've received additional allegations about your conduct, and they're quite serious. Someone has provided what appears to be first-hand knowledge of you arranging clandestine meetings and specifically trying to hide these meetings from your husband. My heart hammered, but I forced myself to stay calm. What kind of first-hand knowledge? The reporting party claims to have overheard you making suspicious phone calls and can provide specific details about your conversations. And you believe this person? Jennifer hesitated. The information was very detailed, including specific locations and times of these alleged meetings. I leaned forward. Jennifer, what if I told you that the person making these reports has been systematically trying to damage my reputation since I received my promotion? And what if I could prove it? You'd need substantial evidence. I'm working on it. But I need you to trust me for just a little longer. Sarah, I want to believe you, but if these allegations are true, they're not. And soon, I'll be able to prove not only that they're false, but who's been orchestrating this entire campaign against me and why. Jennifer studied me for a long moment. You have until Monday. If you can't provide compelling evidence that clears this up, we'll have to move forward with disciplinary action. As I left HR, I saw Sandra watching from the copy machine, barely containing her glee. She thought she was winning. What she didn't know was that I'd just gotten confirmation of exactly how she was planning to destroy me. And tomorrow night, when she expected to catch me in a compromising situation at that downtown restaurant, she was going to get the surprise of her life. I pulled out my phone and texted David, Phase 2 starts now. The perfect storm. Saturday morning brought a complication I hadn't anticipated. David was in the kitchen making coffee when I came downstairs, his face grim as he stared at his phone. Sarah, we have a problem. My stomach dropped. What now? My brother just called. Apparently, someone contacted my mom yesterday, claiming to be a friend of yours from work. They told her they were concerned about our marriage and thought the family should know what's happening. I felt the room spin. Sandra contacted your mother? Mom's been calling everyone, my sister, my dad, probably half the extended family by now. She's in full crisis mode, wants to drive up here this weekend to help us work things out. This was escalating beyond anything I'd imagined. It was one thing to attack my professional reputation, but involving David's family crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. What did you tell your brother? The truth. But Sarah, he sounded skeptical. He kept asking why someone would make this up if there wasn't some basis in reality. David set down his coffee cup harder than necessary. My own family is questioning whether I know what's going on in my own marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk saw your husband at Murphy's bar last night. Looked pretty upset. If you need someone to talk to about what you're going through, I'm here. Sandra asterisk. I showed David the message. His face went white, then red. I did go to Murphy's. I needed to think, to process all this insanity. How did she know that? She's following you. The realization hit me like ice water. David, she's not just spreading rumors anymore. She's actively stalking us. Before David could respond, my phone rang. Riley's name flashed on the screen. Sarah, thank God you answered. Something's happened. Sandra's been going through your computer. What do you mean? I came in early to finish that project, and she was at your desk with your computer open. When she saw me, she claimed IT had asked her to check something, but I called them, they never sent her. My hands were shaking. Riley, please tell me you documented this. I did better than that. I pretended to believe her story, but I stayed nearby and watched. She was going through your email, your calendar, your client files. She was taking photos of your screen with her phone. This was it, the smoking gun I needed. But it also meant Sandra had access to information that could make her lies even more convincing. Did you see what she was looking at specifically? Your Peterson account files, your calendar entries, and... Riley's voice dropped. Sarah, she was looking at your personal email too. The one you use for appointment confirmations and stuff. My blood ran cold. My personal email had confirmations for David's surprise party, medical appointments, everything Sandra could twist into evidence of an affair. There's more, Riley continued. I overheard her on a call afterward. She was talking to someone about having concrete proof and something about Monday being Judgment Day. Monday. The deadline Jennifer had given me. After hanging up, I turned to David, who'd been listening to my side of the conversation. She's not just targeting me anymore, I said. She's going after you, your family, using illegal methods to build her case. This has become a full-scale assault on our entire life. David was quiet for a long moment, then looked at me with a determination I hadn't seen since this nightmare began. What do you need me to do? Are you sure? Because what I'm planning is going to get messy. If we do this wrong, we could both end up in serious trouble. Sarah, this woman contacted my mother. She's following me to bars and documenting my movements. She's violated your privacy and probably broken several laws. I'm done being a victim in this. I pulled up the notes on my phone, showing him the timeline I'd been building. Then we're going to give Sandra exactly what she wants, concrete proof of wrongdoing. Just not the kind she's expecting. The counterattack. Sunday evening, David and I sat in our car outside the downtown Marriott, watching the entrance like we were conducting surveillance. In a way, we were. Remind me again why we're not just going straight to HR with what we already have. David asked, adjusting the rearview mirror for the third time. Because Sandra's been careful. Everything she's done has plausible deniability built in. I was just concerned about a coworker. I thought someone should know. I was asked by IT to check something. I checked my phone for the time. We need her to do something so blatantly unethical that there's no way to explain it away. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley, asterisk she just left the office. Spent 2 hours there. Whatever she was doing, she was excited when she left. Asterisk. 20 minutes later, Sandra's silver Honda pulled into the hotel parking lot. David and I exchanged glances as she got out, dressed like she was going to a business meeting, carrying a manila folder thick with documents. Phase 1, I murmured, grabbing my purse. I walked into the hotel lobby and positioned myself at the bar where I could see Sandra approaching the concierge desk. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I watched her hand over what looked like a business card and gesture toward the restaurant. My phone rang right on schedule. Ms. Chen? This is the concierge at the Marriott downtown. We have someone here claiming to be a colleague of yours who says she's trying to reach you about an urgent work matter. She says you're meeting someone here tonight and asked us to help her find you. I'm not meeting anyone at your hotel tonight, and I don't know why anyone would think I was. I spoke loudly enough for Sandra to hear from across the lobby. Can you describe this person? As the concierge gave Sandra's description, I watched her face change from confident to confused to alarmed. She'd expected to catch me in a compromising situation, but instead, she just publicly identified herself as someone who was tracking my supposed movements based on false information. Sir, the person you're describing has been harassing me at work. She's been spreading false rumors about my personal life and apparently is now following me to locations where she thinks I'm meeting someone. I think you should ask her to leave, and I may need to file a police report. Sandra's face went completely white. She turned and practically ran from the lobby. But I wasn't done. Monday morning, I arrived at work early and went straight to Jennifer's office. I had printed copies of everything, Riley's photos of Sandra at my desk, timestamps of her unauthorized access to my computer, phone records showing calls to David's family, and a detailed timeline of her harassment campaign. Jennifer, I promised you evidence, and here it is. She spent 20 minutes reviewing everything, her expression growing more serious with each page. Sarah, if this is accurate, Sandra has violated our IT policy, our workplace harassment guidelines, and possibly broken several laws. There's more. Yesterday, she followed me to a hotel where she believed I was having an affair, and approached hotel staff claiming to be looking for me. I had the concierge's statement. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. I need to involve our legal department and probably law enforcement. This goes far beyond workplace drama. I want my name cleared, Jennifer. Completely. Because this isn't just about me anymore, she's targeting my husband and his family. Consider it done. Sarah, I owe you an apology. We should have investigated more thoroughly from the beginning instead of just reacting to allegations. As I left Jennifer's office, I saw Sandra at her desk, typing frantically on her computer. She looked up as I passed, and for the first time since this started, I saw fear in her eyes instead of smugness. My phone buzzed with a text from David, *, my boss just called. Someone contacted the company claiming I was having personal issues that might affect my work. They want to meet with me this afternoon. *. Sandra wasn't done fighting. In fact, she was escalating to a level that made everything we'd been through look like child's play. I realized with growing dread that cornering Sandra might have been a mistake. Because desperate people don't just give up, they get dangerous. The nuclear option. Within an hour of my meeting with Jennifer, Sandra made her most devastating move yet. I was back at my desk, finally feeling like I had some control over the situation, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed David's office number, but it wasn't David's voice on the other end. Is this Sarah Chen? The woman's voice was crisp, professional, cold. Yes, who is this? This is Margaret Walsh from Hartwell and Associates HR Department. I'm calling regarding your husband, David Chen. We've received some very serious allegations about his conduct that we need to discuss immediately. My blood turned to ice. What kind of allegations? I can't discuss the details with you, but I need David to come in for a meeting this afternoon. The nature of these allegations is such that we're placing him on administrative leave pending investigation. Administrative leave? For what? Ma'am, I really can't discuss this with you. Please have David call me within the hour. The line went dead. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial David's extension. Sarah? His voice was tight with panic. I just got called into my supervisor's office. They're saying someone contacted them with evidence that I've been using company resources to spy on my wife's alleged affair. That I've been making personal calls during work hours, using company internet to investigate your activities, and creating a hostile work environment by discussing my marital problems with colleagues. That's insane. You haven't done any of those things. I know that, and you know that, but they have documentation. Screenshots of supposed internet searches from my computer, phone records of calls I allegedly made, even witness statements from colleagues saying I seemed distracted and kept asking them for advice about cheating spouses. I felt like I was falling down a bottomless pit. David, Sandra fabricated all of this. But how? How does she have access to make it look like I used my work computer for personal searches? How does she have fake phone records? Before I could answer, Marcus appeared at my cubicle, his face grave. Sarah, you need to know, Sandra just went into Mr. Peterson's office. She's been in there for 20 minutes with a folder full of documents. Mr. Peterson. Our biggest client. The account that had gotten me promoted in the first place. I hung up with David and practically ran to the executive floor. Through the glass windows of the conference room, I could see Sandra sitting across from James Peterson, our company president Robert Maxwell, and Jennifer from HR. Sandra was animated, pointing to papers spread across the table, playing the role of concerned employee perfectly. My phone buzzed with an urgent text from Riley, * emergency. Sandra's been printing fake emails from the company server. She somehow accessed the template system and created fake correspondence. She's been building this for weeks. *. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Sandra hadn't just been spreading rumors, she'd been manufacturing evidence. Fake emails that looked like they came from me. Fabricated phone logs. Doctored screenshots. She turned this into an elaborate forgery scheme. But then Riley sent another text that made my stomach drop. * It gets worse. She's not just targeting you and David anymore. She's created fake evidence suggesting you've been embezzling client funds to pay for hotel rooms and gifts for your supposed affair partner. *. Embezzlement. That wasn't just a fireable offense, that was federal crime territory. Through the conference room window, I watched James Peterson's face grow increasingly serious as Sandra continued her presentation. Our company's biggest client was getting a detailed briefing on how his primary contact was allegedly a lying, cheating embezzler. My career wasn't just in jeopardy anymore. My freedom was. I pulled out my phone and called the one person I should have contacted weeks ago. Morrison and Associates, how may I help you? I need to speak with an employment attorney immediately. This is an emergency. As I waited to be connected, I watched Sandra shake hands with James Peterson through the conference room window. She caught sight of me standing in the hallway and smiled, not the fake concerned smile she'd been wearing for weeks, but a cold, triumphant grin. She'd just gone nuclear, and I realized with growing terror that I might have underestimated exactly how far she was willing to go to destroy me. The attorney's voice came on the line just as security appeared in my peripheral vision, walking purposefully in my direction. This is Rebecca Morrison. I understand you have an urgent employment situation? Ms. Morrison, I said, my voice barely steady as the security guards approached. I think I'm about to be arrested. The point of no return. The security guard stopped just short of me, speaking in hushed tones with Jennifer from HR who had emerged from the conference room. I could see Sandra through the glass, still talking animatedly with Peterson and Maxwell, occasionally gesturing toward where I stood in the hallway. Ms. Morrison, I whispered into the phone, I need legal representation immediately. My coworker has fabricated evidence suggesting I've committed embezzlement, and I think they're about to escort me out of the building. Don't say another word to anyone without me present. The attorney's voice was sharp and clear. What's your location? I gave her the office address just as Jennifer approached me, flanked by the two security guards. Sarah, I need you to come with us. We have some very serious matters to discuss. I want my attorney present for any questioning. Jennifer's eyebrows rose. That's your right, of course, but Sarah, the evidence we've just been presented with is quite compelling. It would be in your best interest to cooperate fully. As they escorted me toward the elevator, I caught sight of my coworkers' faces, shock, confusion, whispers spreading like wildfire through the office. Sandra had orchestrated this perfectly, timing her final assault for maximum visibility and impact. My phone buzzed with a text from David, *, they just called me back in. They're saying there's evidence I knew about your supposed embezzlement and helped cover it up. Sarah, what is happening? *. The elevator doors closed, and I felt like I was descending into hell. 20 minutes later, I sat in a conference room with Jennifer, Robert Maxwell, and a man I didn't recognize who introduced himself as the company's legal counsel. Sandra's evidence was spread across the table like a prosecutor's case file. Sarah, we have emails from your account authorizing unusual payments to vendors that don't exist in our system, Maxwell began, his voice heavy with disappointment. We have hotel receipts allegedly charged to client expense accounts for meetings that weren't on any official calendar. And we have witness statements suggesting you've been using your position to funnel money into personal accounts. I stared at the documents, recognizing my email signature, my supposed digital footprint, but knowing with absolute certainty that I had never seen any of these communications before. These are forgeries, I said quietly. Every single one of them. Sarah, these came from our own email servers. IT has verified the metadata. Then someone with sophisticated access to our systems created them. Have you considered that the person who brought you this evidence might be the same person who created it? The company lawyer leaned forward. That's a very serious accusation. Do you have any proof that Ms. Morrison fabricated these documents? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Rebecca Morrison, my attorney. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Don't answer any more questions. As I ended the call, Maxwell's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. We have a problem, he said to the room. James Peterson just called. He's pulling the Peterson account effective immediately. He says he can't work with a company that employs people who steal client funds, and he's concerned about what other ethical lapses we might be covering up. My heart sank. The Peterson account was worth over $2 million annually. Sandra hadn't just destroyed my career, she potentially crippled the entire company. There's more, Maxwell continued, scrolling through his phone. Peterson's assistant just sent me a list of other clients they're recommending switch to different agencies. Sarah, if this spreads, we're looking at losing 30% of our revenue. Jennifer was furiously typing on her laptop. I'm getting calls from 3 other clients asking for clarification about recent developments. Word is spreading fast. Through the conference room window, I could see Sandra at her desk, making phone calls with animated gestures. She wasn't done yet, she was actively contacting our entire client base, spreading her poison to anyone who would listen. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, *, you should have just accepted that you didn't deserve that promotion. Now everyone will pay for your arrogance. This is just the beginning. *. Sandra had just declared total war, and I realized with mounting horror that she was willing to bring down the entire company to ensure my complete destruction. The attorney's arrival changed the entire dynamic in the room. Rebecca Morrison was a sharp-dressed woman in her 40s who walked in like she owned the building, carrying a briefcase that looked expensive enough to fund a small country. Before we proceed, she said, settling into the chair beside me, I need to review all the evidence you presented to my client. And I mean everything, metadata, server logs, chain of custody documentation, the works. Maxwell shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Morrison, we have substantial evidence of financial impropriety. You have documents that appeared on your servers, allegedly created by my client, who conveniently is being accused by the same person who provided the evidence. That's not substantial, that's suspicious. Rebecca spread her own documents across the table. What you don't have is any actual financial discrepancy. I've already had my forensic accountant run preliminary numbers on your client accounts. Every dollar is accounted for. So either Sarah is the world's most incompetent embezzler, or someone created fake transactions that never actually moved any money. The room went silent. Jennifer was frantically clicking through screens on her laptop. That's impossible, Jennifer muttered. If these invoices and payments are fake, how did they get into our system with the proper authorization codes? Excellent question, Rebecca smiled coldly. Perhaps you should ask who else has administrative access to your financial systems. Who else knows Sarah's authorization codes? Who else has been working late, staying after hours, potentially when oversight is minimal? I watched understanding dawn on Maxwell's face. You're suggesting Sandra Morrison has been systematically infiltrating our systems to frame Sarah. I'm suggesting you investigate before you destroy an innocent employee's career based on fabricated evidence. My phone buzzed with a text from David, *, Rebecca's partner just showed up at my office. Apparently Sandra called my company claiming to have evidence I've been helping you launder money through fake business accounts. Sarah, she's trying to get us both arrested. Asterisk. I showed the text to Rebecca, whose jaw tightened. She's escalating faster than I expected, Rebecca murmured. Sarah, we need to move quickly. If she's manufacturing evidence of money laundering, she's trying to bring federal charges into this. Before anyone could respond, Jennifer's phone rang. She answered, spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up with a grim expression. That was our IT security team. They've detected unusual access patterns on our servers over the past 6 weeks. Someone has been logging into multiple employee accounts during off hours, including accessing financial systems they shouldn't have clearance for. Let me guess, Rebecca said dryly. The access originated from Sandra Morrison's credentials. Actually, no. That's what's concerning. The access appears to be coming from Sarah's login. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I can prove where I was every evening. Unless, Rebecca interrupted, someone cloned your credentials or is using your access remotely. IT security, do you have the actual IP addresses and device information for these unauthorized accesses? Jennifer was already dialing. I'm getting our IT director up here now. While we waited, Maxwell's phone began ringing constantly. Each call seemed to bring worse news, another client expressing concern, another business partner asking for clarification, another potential contract being put on hold. This is exactly what she wanted, I said quietly. Sandra doesn't just want to destroy me. She wants to burn down the entire company because she couldn't handle being passed over for a promotion. Rebecca was typing rapidly on her phone. I'm calling in a digital forensics expert. If Sandra has been this systematic about framing you, she's left digital fingerprints somewhere. People always do. But will we find them before she succeeds in getting me arrested? Because at this rate, she's going to have half our clients convinced I'm running some kind of criminal enterprise. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Riley, asterisk urgent. Sandra just left with boxes of files. She told someone she was taking them to the FBI field office. She said she had evidence of a company-wide financial conspiracy. Asterisk. The FBI. Sandra had just escalated this beyond anything I could have imagined. Rebecca saw my face and grabbed my phone to read the message. Her expression went from concern to alarmed. We need to get ahead of this immediately, she said, standing up abruptly. Because if Sandra Morrison walks into a federal building with fabricated evidence of financial crimes, this situation just became exponentially more dangerous for everyone involved. The federal gambit. Rebecca was on her phone before Sandra's car had even left the parking lot, speaking in rapid-fire legal jargon to someone she kept calling Agent Martinez. Through the conference room window, I watched Sandra's silver Honda disappear around the corner, carrying what could be the final nail in my coffin. How long do we have? Maxwell asked when Rebecca hung up. If she's really going to the FBI field office, maybe 2 hours before they start taking her seriously. Federal agents don't usually dismiss claims of corporate embezzlement, especially when someone walks in with boxes of evidence. Rebecca's fingers were flying across her laptop keyboard. But I have a contact there who owes me a favor. Agent Martinez is going to try to delay any immediate action until we can present our side. Jennifer burst back into the room, followed by Tom from IT security, whose face was grim as he set up his laptop. The unauthorized access logs are even worse than we thought, Tom said without preamble. Someone has been systematically accessing employee accounts for 6 weeks, but they've been routing the connections through Sarah's home IP address to make it look like she was doing it. That's impossible, I said. How could someone use my home internet connection without me knowing? Tom pulled up a screen full of data. They couldn't, unless they had physical access to your home network or... He paused, scrolling through more logs. Wait. These aren't actually coming from your house. They're spoofed to look like your IP address, but the real origin point is being masked. Rebecca leaned forward. Can you trace the actual source? I'm trying, but whoever did this knew what they were doing. They used VPN tunneling and IP spoofing to create false digital fingerprints. But... Tom's eyes lit up. They made one mistake. The timestamps show some of this activity happening simultaneously from Sarah's home and from the office. Unless Sarah can be in 2 places at once, someone else was definitely involved. My phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen, and my hands were shaking as I answered. Sarah, you need to get home right now. His voice was tight with panic. There are FBI agents at our front door. They have a search warrant. The room went completely silent. Even Rebecca looked stunned. David, don't let them in until my attorney gets there. Don't answer any questions, don't volunteer any information. They're already inside, Sarah. They're going through our computer, our files, everything. They keep asking about offshore accounts and money transfers. One of them just asked me if I knew you'd been funneling client funds through cryptocurrency exchanges. Cryptocurrency. Sandra had thought of everything. Rebecca grabbed the phone from my hand. David, this is Sarah's attorney. Listen very carefully. Say absolutely nothing else to them. Ask to see the warrant and photograph every page with your phone. If they try to question you further, tell them you're invoking your Fifth Amendment rights and demand your own legal representation. She hung up and immediately dialed another number. I need a criminal defense attorney at this address immediately. Federal search warrant in progress. Maxwell was staring at his phone in horror. Our stock price just dropped 12%. Someone leaked news of a federal investigation to the financial press. Sandra, I whispered. She called the media too. Jennifer's laptop pinged with an urgent email. She read it, and her face went white. James Peterson just sent a company-wide email to his entire contact list, warning other businesses about criminal elements in our agency. He's recommending they audit any work we'd done for them in the past 2 years. The domino effect was accelerating beyond anyone's control. Sandra hadn't just targeted me, she'd created a crisis that was destroying everything in its path. There's something else, Tom said quietly, still staring at his screen. The fabricated evidence wasn't just created recently. Some of these fake emails have backdated timestamps going back months. Whoever did this has been planning this destruction for a very long time. Rebecca's phone buzzed with a text. She read it and cursed under her breath. Agent Martinez says Sandra Morrison is in the federal building right now, meeting with a financial crimes task force. She's presenting what she claims is evidence of a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme involving multiple employees and potentially international money laundering. How is this possible? I asked, feeling like I was drowning. How did one person's jealousy turn into federal charges and company-wide devastation? Rebecca looked at me with grim determination. Because Sandra Morrison isn't just vindictive, she's methodical, intelligent, and completely ruthless. She's been planning your total destruction for months, and she's willing to burn down everything around you to make it happen. My phone buzzed with a news alert: local marketing firm under federal investigation for alleged client fund embezzlement. The story was already going national. The digital trail. Rebecca's forensic expert arrived within the hour, a woman named Dr. Sarah Kim, who looked like she could hack into the Pentagon from her smartphone. While federal agents were still tearing apart my house, she was setting up equipment in our conference room that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. The good news, Dr. Kim said, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards simultaneously, is that Sandra got overconfident. When you're fabricating this much evidence, you leave traces everywhere. What kind of traces? I asked, watching lines of code scroll across our screens. Digital fingerprints. Every time someone creates a fake email or doctors a financial record, they leave metadata signatures. Sandra tried to cover her tracks, but she made critical errors. Dr. Kim pulled up a series of timestamps. Look at this, she created 17 fake emails allegedly sent by you, but they were all generated within a 4-hour window last Tuesday night. The original creation timestamps are still embedded in the file headers. Rebecca leaned over Dr. Kim's shoulder. Can you prove Sandra created them? Better than that. She used her work computer to generate the fakes, then tried to make them look like they came from Sarah's account. But she forgot that our software leaves invisible watermarks on every document created. Watch this. Dr. Kim's screen filled with what looked like one of my emails authorizing a suspicious payment. But when she ran it through her analysis software, hidden data appeared. Created on Sandra Morrison's workstation, Tuesday 11:47 p.m. Modified 17 times before being inserted into the email server. And here's the smoking gun, she used a template from her own previous emails and just changed the sender information. I felt the first spark of hope I'd had in hours. So you can prove these are forgeries? I can prove Sandra Morrison systematically fabricated evidence over a period of weeks. But there's something else. Dr. Kim's expression darkened. She didn't just target you. She's been collecting personal information on dozens of employees. Social security numbers, home addresses, financial information. This looks like identity theft on a massive scale. Jennifer gasped. You mean other employees are at risk? Already happening. Dr. Kim pulled up another screen showing credit monitoring alerts. 3 employees have had unauthorized credit applications in their names just this week. Sandra's been using stolen employee data to create fake financial accounts that make it look like multiple people are involved in the embezzlement scheme. My phone rang. It was Riley, and she was crying. Sarah, I just got a call from my bank. Someone opened a credit card in my name and charged $15,000 to some cryptocurrency exchange. They're saying I might be responsible for the debt. I put the phone on speaker. Riley, Sandra's been stealing employee information and creating fake accounts. You're not responsible for this. There's more, Riley sobbed. The FBI called my parents' house looking for me. They told my mom I was under investigation for financial crimes. She's hysterical. Rebecca grabbed a notepad. Riley, I need you to document every contact you've received. We're building a case showing Sandra's been victimizing multiple people, not just Sarah. After hanging up, Dr. Kim's computer chimed with an alert. This is interesting. I've been monitoring Sandra's digital activity, and she's currently logged into the company server from the FBI field office. She's deleting files in real time. She's destroying evidence while talking to federal agents? Maxwell asked incredulously. Worse. She's creating new evidence. I'm watching her fabricate emails right now, backdating them to make it look like other employees were complicit in the supposed embezzlement. The scope of Sandra's plan was becoming clear. She wasn't just trying to destroy me, she was methodically framing half the company to make her story more believable. Can you stop her? I asked. Dr. Kim's smile was predatory. I can do better than that. I can trace every keystroke she's made in the past 2 months and create a complete record of her fabrication timeline. By the time I'm done, we'll have documented proof of exactly how she built this entire house of lies. My phone buzzed with a text from David, *FBI just left. They took our computers and files, but one agent seemed skeptical about the evidence. He kept asking why Sandra Morrison knew so many details about an investigation that was supposedly just starting. Asterisk. Rebecca looked up from her laptop. Agent Martinez just texted. Sandra's story is starting to fall apart under questioning. Apparently she knew too much about evidence that hadn't been disclosed yet. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we might actually have a chance. The reverse investigation. Just as hope was beginning to creep back into my chest, Dr. Kim's computer erupted in urgent beeping sounds that made everyone in the room freeze. We have a massive problem, she said, her voice tight with alarm. Sandra just triggered something called a dead man's switch on the company servers. What does that mean? Maxwell asked, though his face suggested he already knew it wasn't good. It means she programmed the system to automatically release additional fabricated evidence if she detected someone investigating her digital trail. The moment I started tracing her activities, it activated. Dr. Kim's fingers were flying across her keyboard, but the lines of code streaming across her screen looked increasingly frantic. She's just dumped what appears to be evidence of a much larger conspiracy involving senior management. Jennifer's phone started ringing immediately. She answered, spoke for 30 seconds, then hung up looking like she'd seen a ghost. That was our corporate attorney. The FBI just received an anonymous package containing documents that suggest Robert and I have been aware of the embezzlement for months and actively helping to cover it up. Maxwell's face went purple. That's absolutely insane. I've never even seen these alleged transactions. It doesn't matter what's true anymore, Rebecca interrupted grimly. Sandra's created so much fake evidence that investigators are going to spend months sorting through it all. And in the meantime, everyone gets dragged through the mud. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Sarah Chan? This is Detective Lisa Park with the Financial Crimes Unit. I need you to come in for questioning immediately. Detective, my client will need to coordinate through her attorney, Rebecca started to say, but the detective cut her off. Ms. Morrison, your client is no longer just a potential victim or witness. We've received evidence suggesting she may have been working with Sandra Morrison in an elaborate scheme to defraud clients and frame innocent coworkers. The room spun around me. That's impossible. Sandra's been targeting me. Ma'am, we have documentation showing financial transfers between accounts allegedly controlled by both you and Ms. Morrison. We have emails suggesting you two planned this entire scenario to deflect attention from your actual crimes. Rebecca grabbed the phone. Detective Park, I'm going to need to see this alleged evidence immediately. My client is the victim of an elaborate frame-up, and we have digital forensics proving. Your forensics expert Dr. Kim is also being brought in for questioning. We've received information suggesting she may have been paid to fabricate evidence to support your client's innocent story. Dr. Kim looked up from her computers in shock. Someone's been monitoring our investigation, she whispered. Sandra knew exactly what we were doing and prepared countermeasures. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, did you really think I wouldn't plan for every contingency? You should have just accepted your fate quietly. Now everyone you care about will burn with you. Asterisk. She's been watching us, I said, showing the text to Rebecca. This entire meeting, everything we've discovered, she's been 3 steps ahead. Jennifer was scrolling through her email, her face getting paler by the minute. I'm getting messages from employees saying they've been contacted by investigators. Marcus, Riley, even people from accounting. She's implicated half the company. Maxwell's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, then sank into his chair. That was our biggest remaining client. They just terminated their contract effective immediately. Word is spreading that the entire company is under federal investigation for organized financial crimes. Through the conference room window, I could see reporters gathering in the parking lot. News vans were arriving, and people with cameras were setting up equipment. How did the media know to come here? I asked. Rebecca's expression was grim. Because Sandra Morrison called them. She's not just destroying us privately, she's making it a public spectacle. Dr. Kim's computer chimed with another alert. She's just released what appears to be recorded phone conversations between Sarah and various coworkers discussing the alleged embezzlement scheme. That's impossible, I said. I never had those conversations. They're deep fakes. Sophisticated audio manipulation using voice samples from your actual work calls. But they sound completely authentic. My hands were shaking as the full scope of Sandra's plan became clear. She hadn't just fabricated financial evidence, she created an entire alternate reality where I was the mastermind of a criminal conspiracy. And somehow, she'd made it look like my attempts to prove my innocence were actually part of an elaborate cover-up scheme. The worst part? Even I was starting to doubt what was real anymore. The final trap. Rebecca's phone rang again, and I could tell from her expression that it wasn't good news. She answered, spoke in clipped legal phrases, then hung up with her jaw clenched tight. Agent Martinez just gave me a heads up. The FBI is preparing to arrest you within the hour. Sandra's evidence package included what appears to be confession recordings and detailed financial records showing money flowing into offshore accounts in your name. Offshore accounts? My voice cracked. I don't even have a passport, let alone international bank accounts. Dr. Kim looked up from her screens, sweat beading on her forehead despite the air conditioning. She's good. Really good. These fake accounts have transaction histories going back 2 years. She's been building this frame-up since before she even started targeting you directly. Maxwell was pacing by the windows, trying to stay out of sight of the growing media crowd below. The board is meeting an emergency session. They're talking about shutting down the entire company to minimize liability exposure. How many people work here? Rebecca asked grimly. 47 employees, Jennifer whispered. 47 families who are about to lose their jobs because of one person's vendetta. My phone buzzed with a call from David's number, but when I answered, it wasn't David's voice. Sarah? This is Rebecca Chan, David's attorney. The irony of having the same first name as my lawyer wasn't lost on me even in my panic. David's been arrested. They're charging him with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. The conference room tilted sideways. Where is he now? Federal Detention Center downtown. They're saying his cooperation with your alleged schemes makes him equally culpable. Sarah, they have recordings of him supposedly discussing how to move money through shell companies. That's impossible. David works in software development. He doesn't even know what a shell company is. The recordings are very convincing. Someone's been planning this for a very long time. After hanging up, I turned to see everyone staring at me with a mixture of pity and growing suspicion. Even after everything we discovered, the mountain of fabricated evidence was starting to make people question what they knew to be true. I need to see David, I said, standing up abruptly. Sarah, you can't leave, Rebecca warned. The moment you step outside, you'll be arrested. And with David already in custody, it'll look like you two were trying to coordinate your stories. Dr. Kim's computer erupted with new alerts. She's releasing more evidence in real time. Bank records, travel receipts, even photographs of you supposedly meeting with money launderers. Photographs of me? I've never met with anyone. I stopped mid-sentence as Dr. Kim pulled up the images on her screen. There I was, sitting in a restaurant with a man I'd never seen before, both of us leaning over documents that looked like financial records. The timestamp showed last Tuesday evening. That's not me, I whispered, but even as I said it, I could see how convincing the image looked. Deepfake technology, Dr. Kim confirmed. But incredibly sophisticated. She's mapped your face onto someone else's body using hundreds of reference photos, probably from your social media accounts and company website. Rebecca was typing frantically on her phone. I'm calling in every favor I have. We need to get ahead of this before. The conference room door burst open, and 3 people in dark suits walked in, badges visible on their belts. Sarah Chan? The lead agent's voice was businesslike but not unkind. I'm Agent Rodriguez with the FBI. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent. As the handcuffs clicked around my wrists, I caught sight of Sandra through the window. She was standing in the parking lot, talking to reporters with what looked like genuine tears in her eyes, playing the role of the brave whistleblower who'd exposed a massive corporate conspiracy. The last thing I heard before they led me away was Dr. Kim's voice, urgent and desperate. I found something. Rebecca, I found the flaw in her system. She made one mistake, but... Then the elevator doors closed, and I was descending into what felt like the end of everything I'd ever worked for. The confession. The federal holding cell was exactly as cold and sterile as every crime show had ever depicted, but what the TV never captured was the smell, disinfectant mixed with despair and the lingering fear of everyone who'd sat on this metal bench before me. I'd been there for 6 hours when Rebecca finally arrived, looking more haggard than I'd ever seen her. Dr. Kim found it, she said without preamble, sliding a thick folder across the small table between us. The one mistake Sandra made, that's going to bring down her entire house of cards. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were printed screenshots of what looked like Sandra's personal computer files. How did Dr. Kim access Sandra's personal files? She didn't need to. Sandra made a critical error. She used her personal cloud storage account to back up all her fabricated evidence, probably as insurance in case something went wrong. But she forgot that when you use company Wi-Fi to access personal accounts, IT security logs capture the data transfers. Rebecca pointed to a highlighted section. Every fake email, every doctored financial record, every deepfake photo, Sandra saved copies to her personal Google Drive over the past 3 months. Dr. Kim was able to trace the uploads through our network logs. My heart started beating faster. So you have proof she created everything? Better than that. We have her planning documents. Sandra kept detailed notes about her timeline, her methods, even her psychological strategy for destroying you. Rebecca flipped to another page. She wrote out her entire plan, Sarah. Like a detailed project proposal for ruining your life. I stared at the printed document, written in Sandra's precise handwriting. The heading read, Project Sarah Elimination, Phase Implementation Timeline. Phase 1, Establish pattern of suspicious behavior through strategic rumor placement, I read aloud. Phase 2, Escalate to marital interference and family targeting. Phase 3, Financial evidence fabrication and federal involvement. Keep reading, Rebecca urged. Phase 4, Implement dead man switch to implicate senior management if investigation threatens exposure. Phase 5, Public destruction through media manipulation and... I stopped. Rebecca, what's Phase 6? Her expression darkened. That's what we need to talk about. Phase 6 is labeled Personal Safety Contingency, Frame Target for Physical Threat if legal strategy fails. The words didn't make sense at first. Physical threat? Sandra's been planning to accuse you of threatening her life. She's prepared evidence suggesting you've been stalking her, making violent threats, even planning to physically harm her if she didn't stop her whistleblowing. I felt the blood drain from my face. She's going to claim I threatened to kill her? Already has. That's why they moved you to federal custody instead of just questioning you. Sandra filed a restraining order this afternoon claiming you've been sending her death threats and following her home. Rebecca pulled out her phone and showed me a news headline, FBI arrests marketing executive in embezzlement scheme, Coworker reports death threats. I've never threatened anyone in my life. I barely even raised my voice at her. I know. But she has text messages allegedly from your phone, voicemails supposedly left on her home answering machine, even photographs of what appears to be you sitting in a car outside her apartment building. More deepfakes? Has to be. But Sarah, this changes everything. We're not just dealing with financial fraud charges anymore. If she convinces investigators you're a physical threat, they'll use it to explain away any evidence of her fabrications as the desperate actions of an increasingly unstable person. I stared at the planning documents, seeing the cold calculation behind every moment of the past months. She really thought of everything, didn't she? Almost everything. But she made one crucial mistake. Rebecca's smile was sharp. She saved all these planning documents to her cloud account using company Wi-Fi 3 weeks ago, the same day she publicly expressed concern about your suspicious behavior to HR. Meaning? Meaning we can prove she was planning your destruction weeks before she claimed to discover any evidence of wrongdoing. Her own timeline proves this was a premeditated attack, not the actions of a concerned coworker who stumbled onto criminal activity. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something that might have been hope. Can we get David released? We're working on it. But Sarah, Sandra's not done yet. According to these documents, she has contingency plans we haven't seen yet. And if she realizes we found her planning notes. Rebecca's phone buzzed with an urgent text. Her face went pale as she read it. What now? Sandra just called 911. She's claiming you escaped federal custody and are currently outside her apartment with a gun. The final revelation. That's impossible, I said, gesturing to the concrete walls around us. I'm literally sitting in a federal holding cell. Rebecca was already on her phone with Agent Rodriguez, her voice sharp with urgency. Your suspect is in federal custody and has been for 7 hours. Whatever Sandra Morrison is claiming, it's physically impossible. Yes, I'll hold. She put the phone on speaker just as Agent Rodriguez came back on the line. Ms. Morrison, we have a situation. Ms. Morrison called 911 claiming Sarah Chen was outside her building with a weapon, but our dispatch shows Chen is definitely in custody. When officers arrived at Morrison's apartment, they found evidence of an elaborate staging, fake photos, pre-recorded audio designed to sound like threats, even a mannequin positioned to look like someone hiding in a car. My mouth fell open. She was going to fake her own stalking incident while I was in jail? It gets worse, Agent Rodriguez continued. When confronted with the obvious impossibility of her claims, Ms. Morrison had what appears to be a complete psychological break. She started confessing to everything, the fabricated evidence, the identity theft, the systematic harassment campaign. She's been talking nonstop for 2 hours. Rebecca leaned forward. Agent Rodriguez, we have documentation showing this was all premeditated. Dr. Kim found Sandra's detailed planning files. We don't need them anymore. Morrison has confessed to creating fake financial records, stealing employee identities, manufacturing audio and video evidence, even paying someone to hack your IT systems to plant evidence. She's provided details about methods we didn't even know about yet. I felt like I was floating. What about David? Mr. Chen is being processed for release as we speak. All charges against both of you are being dropped immediately. We're now focused on building a case against Morrison for what appears to be one of the most elaborate harassment and fraud schemes we've encountered. Rebecca was taking notes rapidly. What triggered her confession? Honestly, I think she couldn't handle the psychological pressure of maintaining such an elaborate lie anymore. When her final plan failed, she just broke. She's been transferred to psychiatric evaluation, but she's still talking. She's confessing to targeting other employees at previous jobs, similar schemes going back years. This wasn't her first time doing something like this. After Agent Rodriguez hung up, Rebecca and I sat in stunned silence for a moment. It's over, I said, barely believing the words. Not quite. The damage Sandra caused will take months to undo completely. Your company's reputation, client relationships, the other employees she victimized, there's a lot of rebuilding ahead. An hour later, I walked out of the federal building into David's arms. The media was still there, but this time the story was different. Instead of covering my arrest, they were reporting Sandra's confession and the elaborate fraud scheme she'd orchestrated. 6 months later, I was back at work, at a new company that had recruited me after the full story came out. Maxwell had managed to rebuild the original firm, stronger than before, with new security protocols and a company culture focused on supporting employees rather than just tolerating workplace toxicity. Sandra Morrison was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for fraud, identity theft, and cyberstalking. The psychological evaluation revealed she had targeted employees at 3 previous companies in similar schemes, though never as elaborate as what she'd done to me. David and I used the settlement money from the wrongful arrest lawsuit to buy our dream house. Sometimes I still get anxious when coworkers seem unusually interested in my personal life, but I've learned that most people are exactly what they appear to be. Sandra was the exception, not the rule. The most satisfying part? James Peterson called personally to apologize and ask if I'd consider taking on his account again. I politely declined. Some bridges, once burned, are better left as ashes.